Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the world of sustainable fashion, and we're using a podcast script made for English learners as our guide.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is. So we'll be pulling out key vocab and phrases, things like that.
Okay.
But most importantly, we'll be giving you the info to make better choices about your wardrobe and how it affects the planet.
I like it.
Are you ready to dive in?
I am definitely ready.
Okay, cool. Let's start with the most basic question. Why should we even care about sustainable fashion? I mean, if you're not like a designer or something, does it really matter?
Oh, it totally matters. It goes way beyond just, fashion shows and stuff. It affects all of us, whether we realize it or not.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. The fashion industry has a huge carbon footprint. It causes a lot of pollution and waste. And there are so many questions about, how workers are treated.
Wow, that's kind of scary when you think about it. Like, you don't realize all that's happening behind the scenes of that, shirt you just bought.
Exactly. And that's the thing, whether you're passionate about the environment or worried about workers' rights or just want to be a more conscious shopper, understanding sustainable fashion gives you the power to make choices that match your values.
So how do we even begin to talk about all this? I keep seeing fast fashion and slow fashion everywhere. I feel like they're supposed to be opposites, but what's the real difference?
Yeah, the source material actually uses a great analogy here. Think of fast fashion like grabbing a burger at a drive-thru.
Yeah.
It's cheap, convenient, and it satisfies that urge right away.
Right.
But just like fast food, fast fashion has hidden costs. We're talking environmental damage, potentially unethical production. And, those clothes won't last. They're not made well.
Ah, okay. So it's like that impulse you regret later, both for your bank account and the planet. What about slow fashion then? Is that like the, farm-to-table, ethically sourced version of fashion?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Slow fashion is about investing in pieces that are well made and meant to last. Choosing timeless styles, appreciating the craftsmanship, and considering the long-term impact of what you buy.
Yeah, I'm starting to get why they call it slow fashion. It's like slowing down the whole, buy and throw away cycle and being more mindful with every purchase. I also saw this term ethical fashion in the source material. Is that just another way of saying sustainable fashion or?
Sustainability, but ethical fashion focuses more on the people involved in making our clothes. It's about ensuring that they're treated fairly, paid a living wage, and work in safe conditions.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I mean, we all want to look good, but not, at the cost of other people's well-being. Okay, there's another term I saw in the source. Upcycling. Is that just like a fancy way of saying recycling, but for clothes?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Upcycling is taking it a step further. Imagine turning old clothes, fabric scraps, even plastic bottles into something new and valuable. It's not just about breaking down materials, it's about giving them a whole new life.
So like turning those old jeans you never wear into a cool tote bag.
Exactly. Upcycling is a creative way to reduce waste and give new purpose to things that would have ended up in a landfill. And speaking of reducing waste, we should talk about circular fashion. It's all about creating a closed-loop system.
Closed loop. That sounds intriguing. What does that even mean?
It means a system where clothes are designed, produced, and recycled in a way that creates very little waste. So materials are constantly being reused and regenerated.
Interesting.
That's the goal of circular fashion. It's a big idea, but some companies are already doing some career things to implement it in different ways.
That's really cool. It seems like such a complicated issue, so it's nice to hear that brands are trying to find solutions. But how can we, as like everyday people, incorporate these ideas? What can we actually do?
The source material has some really useful tips on that. It gives you easy phrases you can use to start conversations about sustainable fashion, whether you're shopping or just talking to friends.
Cool. What kind of phrases are we talking about?
Well, something as easy as, I try to buy from brands that use eco-friendly materials can be a good starting point. Or, thrifting is a fun and sustainable way to update my wardrobe is another one.
I love how simple and easy those phrases are. You don't have to be a fashion expert to start using them. What about when I'm actually shopping, though? Are there phrases I can use to make sure I'm making good choices, sustainable ones?
Definitely. You could ask things like, do you know any good sustainable fashion brands? Or what are some eco-friendly fabrics I should look for?
Okay.
It could lead to some really interesting conversations with the salespeople and help you learn more about the brands you're interested in.
That's a really good idea. I also like the idea of looking for, certifications like Fair Trade or GOTS. But to be honest, I don't really know what those labels mean.
Think of them like a seal of approval that shows a brand meets certain ethical and sustainable standards.
Gotcha.
For example, Fair trade focuses on fair labor practices and making sure farmers and workers, especially in developing countries, have more power.
Okay, so if I see the fair trade logo, I can feel better knowing that the people who made the clothes were treated fairly and paid a good wage.
Exactly. And GOTS stands for Global Organic Textile Standard. It makes sure that textiles are made with organic fibers and processed in a way that's good for the environment and follows social criteria.
So it's not just about the materials themselves, but the entire process of making the clothes.
Right. These certifications make things more transparent and give us a way to quickly see which brands are actually putting sustainability into practice.
This is all so helpful, but I gotta admit, sometimes it can feel a bit awkward, talking about sustainable fashion.
Yeah.
Especially if I don't want to seem like I'm judging people or preaching.
Yeah, I get that. The source actually highlights 3 things to keep in mind. Be specific, use positive language, and ask questions.
Okay.
They sound simple, but they can really change how your message comes across.
So break this down for me. What does it mean to be specific when we're talking about sustainable fashion?
It's about going beyond just saying things like, fast fashion is bad. Instead, use real examples and facts to back up what you're saying. Like, did you know that the fashion industry is responsible for something like 10% of global carbon emissions?
Seriously, 10%. That's crazy. I can see how using numbers like that would make people pay more attention than just saying, it's bad for the environment.
Yeah.
What about using positive language? I mean, isn't it important to talk about the problems with the fashion industry?
For sure. But if we only focus on the negative, it can get overwhelming. People might feel like there's no hope.
Right.
Try focusing on the solutions and things that are already changing for the better.
Yeah.
You'll make people feel more inspired to take action.
So instead of dwelling on all the bad stuff, we should focus on the positive changes and how people can be part of the solution.
Exactly. Sustainable fashion is all about progress, not perfection. And don't forget the power of asking questions.
How so? Why are questions so important?
It shows you're genuinely curious and open to learning from others and hearing different opinions. It keeps the conversation going and helps you understand the bigger picture of sustainable fashion.
Okay, I see. So it's about being humble and realizing that we don't have all the answers and there's always more to learn.
You got it. Asking thoughtful questions can lead to some really cool discussions and fresh perspectives.
That makes sense. It's not about lecturing people. It's about having a conversation, learning together. But honestly, sometimes I still feel a little awkward talking about this stuff. Like, what if I don't feel like I'm an expert?
I totally get it. It's
Right.
a complicated topic and there's so much to learn. But you don't need to know everything to have a good conversation.
True.
One of the best ways to get over that feeling of being awkward is to just share your own experiences.
Like, what do you mean?
Talk about your own journey with sustainable fashion. The good, the bad, and everything in between.
That's a great idea. It makes it more relatable. It doesn't sound like you're preaching or anything.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
Sharing your story, being honest about your struggles, and admitting that you're still learning can make a big impact. It can really connect with people and inspire them to make their own changes.
So it's about being genuine and leading by example, not trying to be perfect or like some sustainable fashion guru.
Yeah. It's about progress, not perfection. And the best part about sustainable fashion is that it's a team effort. Everyone's journey is different and important.
You're right. Speaking of journeys, I'm actually curious to hear about yours. What made you get interested in sustainable fashion? And what have been some of the challenges and rewards along the way?
Well, my aha moment was a few years ago when I started learning about the environmental and social impact of the fashion industry.
Okay.
I was really shocked by how much waste fast fashion creates and all the unethical stuff that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's what made me start paying attention too, is like you suddenly realize what's really going on to make those cheap, trendy clothes.
Right? It was a wake-up call. And I decided to be more careful about what I buy and support brands that are doing things better. At first, it was definitely hard. Sustainable clothes can be pricier, and it wasn't easy finding styles I liked.
I feel that there's this idea that sustainable fashion is, either way too expensive or just not stylish.
I know what you mean. But over time, I've learned that sustainable fashion can be both stylish and affordable. I started thrifting more, upcycling old clothes and finding smaller ethical brands that I really connect with.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot between style ethics and price.
Exactly. And to be honest, it's been an amazing journey. I feel good knowing that I'm making a difference, and I've actually discovered a whole new side of fashion, through sustainability.
That's awesome. What about you? What got you into all this?
Well, for me, it was this documentary I watched about The Rana Plaza factory collapse in Bangladesh.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a horrible tragedy. It really showed the dark side of the fast fashion industry.
Mm-hmm.
The human cost of it all. It was a turning point for a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
It showed how much we need to change the way we think about clothes.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. And I knew I couldn't keep supporting a system that treats workers so badly and cares more about money than people or the planet.
It's about seeing the connection between what we buy and how it affects the world.
For sure. So I started making changes, little by little, shopping less, trying to buy secondhand more often, and really researching brands before I buy anything.
Those are great things to do.
And you know what I've learned? Sustainable fashion isn't just about buying less or choosing eco-friendly fabrics. It's about changing the way you think about clothes.
I completely agree. It's about quality over quantity, choosing clothes that will last, and taking care of what you already have.
And it's about thinking about the people who make our clothes, realizing that there are real people behind them.
It's about remembering that fashion isn't just about looking good. It's a powerful way to express yourself, and it can be used to do good in the world.
This conversation has been so great. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on sustainable fashion, and I'm excited to keep learning and making changes.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, every conversation, every choice we make can make a difference.
We as shoppers have the power to demand better and create a better future for fashion.
That's the spirit. So what's the main takeaway for our listeners? If someone's just starting to learn about sustainable fashion, what's the one piece of advice we would give them?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing is to start small and not try to be perfect. Just focus on making progress.
Yeah, trying to do too much at once can be overwhelming. It's way better to start with small changes that you can stick with.
Like maybe instead of buying a whole new wardrobe, commit to buying just 1 or 2 sustainably made items each season. Or challenge yourself to thrift more.
Right. Or what if you started mending your clothes instead of throwing them away when they get a little ripped or something?
Yeah, those are all good ideas. And don't forget, sustainable fashion isn't just about buying new stuff. It's about taking care of the clothes you already have and making them last longer.
It's about moving away from that throwaway culture and really appreciating our clothes and how they're made.
It really is, about making those little changes and them adding up.
Yeah. And it's not just about helping the environment either.
Yeah.
It's about, feeling good about what you wear and knowing you're supporting a better kind of industry.
It's like that feeling of, your choices matching your values.
Right. It's like saying, hey, I want to support brands that are doing things right.
Yeah.
I want to be part of a better future for fashion.
I like that. So we covered a lot today. We talked about all those important terms like fast fashion, slow fashion, ethical fashion, and even that whole idea of circular fashion.
Yeah, and we gave some practical tips on how to talk about sustainable fashion in a way that people will actually listen to.
And we shared our own stories,
Yeah.
and talked about why it's good to start small, focus on progress, and remember that everyone can make a difference.
It's been a really interesting look at this whole topic, and I hope our listeners feel like they can get involved and make a real impact.
Absolutely. Sustainable fashion is a journey, not a destination. And every step we take, even the little ones, helps create a more positive fashion industry.
So keep asking those questions, keep talking about it, and keep rocking those sustainable threads.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into sustainable fashion. We hope you feel informed and inspired to make a difference.
Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and stay stylish.